Okay, looks like we're getting ready to get started here. So I'll just start with some quick introductions from the team. We've got Anna Maria, our marketing specialist, on board here, who has helped us set up the webinar for everyone. So thank you, Anna Maria. I'm Joel Wilhelm. I'm the Director of Channel Sales here at phoenixNAP. On with us is William Bell. William.
Hey guys, nice to be here.
All right, and he's our EVP of Products and Product Development for phoenixNAP, and Brandon McCoy out in Atlanta, Georgia with Veeam.
Yes, hello everyone out there in webinar land. This is Brandon.
All right, great. So today we wanted to have a quick conversation about some winning hybrid cloud strategies, leveraging services phoenixNAP and Veeam software. We know that there's a large ecosystem of multi-cloud and hybrid cloud deployments out there, and still many customers that are on-prem today. So we wanted to bring up some special use cases on how you can leverage phoenixNAP and Veeam software together to help customers migrate. And of course, customers that are already embracing multi-cloud and hybrid cloud strategies, give them additional tools, so give them a little bit more information on how they can properly leverage those tools that they already have access to achieve the outcomes they're looking for. Let me see if I can get this to work. I want to start with a brief overview. Many of you might be familiar with who phoenixNAP is today, but it always helps to kind of level set on us as a service provider, what we do and what we do best. We were founded in 2009 as a co-location only facility and very quickly grew into cloud services. We built a public cloud first, and then we started building private cloud components. Of course, comprehensive backup and disaster recovery solutions came next, as well as expansion of our footprint across multiple data centers, multiple regions, and then eventually globally. So that way we had the reach our customers were asking for. We've grown to over 500 employees worldwide, with over 15 data centers lit today with our networks deployed, which includes a DDoS protected, high bandwidth, high throughput type networks that we can backhaul between those data centers, and of course a plethora of internet and carrier services providers to service our customers in those areas. We've got 5 geo-dispersed locations for disaster recovery and backup, and on the next slide I'll show you the meaningful locations. We are a very channel-focused organization. I lead the channel, but we've got 5 channel managers out in the field, so that way we can have one-on-one conversations with our partners about all of the products and services that we offer. And you'll get a dedicated channel management team. You'll get the training and enablement that you need, so that way we can go to the market together and be more effective in a highly volatile digital world. Here's locations that are really meaningful for us. Phoenix, Arizona is, of course, our flagship data center. We offer all of the services that you'll see in our menus out of Phoenix, also Atlanta, Ashburn, Amsterdam, and Singapore. The other sites, as William, maybe if you want to step in, clearly we're going to be spinning up additional services and some new sites here over the next few years. We're not here to, yeah, go ahead, Will.
Yeah, so I mean, as you mentioned, Joel, those are kind of our core locations. We're rolling out products in each location as as necessary and as we see demand kind of change. We do plan for cities like Chicago, Frankfurt, and Sydney to ultimately, most assuredly, become kind of core locations for us as well. And yeah, so just trying to reach the kind of that edge deployment and get closer to consumers for our partners and for our customers.
And obviously, Veeam's got a global, international presence. One of the top backup and replication softwares out there today. So, matching up and marrying up with where the customers are, so they can effectively, leverage us as a cloud service provider is very important. Here's a little bit more on why phoenixNAP is a great fit for service providers. Essentially, we've been with the program since the onset of Cloud Connect and version 8 of Veeam as a national platinum partner. So we're one of their top providers out there today. We've got a proven track record of providing the services to customers. There's been many changes to, patches and updates from Veeam software that we stay on top of with them, new deployments for reseller capabilities, so that way our partners can truly leverage us and Veeam software most effectively. One of the other things I think is paramount is just the partnership itself. Veeam's been an excellent partner in helping us with webinars like this, talking to the reseller community to help them understand that we're not a competitor of theirs. We don't sell Veeam SKUs out there to the end user. We are a complementary fit to when they acquire Veeam software and begin using it on-prem or in their other deployments, where they can easily get their backups into another data center or replication to a DRaaS provider. So that way our partners can still do what they do and we do what we do best and focus on what's inside of our four walls with SLAs and the type of support that you would expect from a global cloud services provider. phoenixNAP offers a very comprehensive mix of infrastructure as a service, starting with co-location. If you think of a wedding cake and you think of, all these data center sites that you saw across the globe, they all have to have certain components to make it work. Security and compliance, networks, co-location, power pipe and ping, right? And from there, we can build our own, clusters of cloud enabled infrastructure as a service, virtualized, adding the special software components and the things that you need to be able to leverage in the cloud without having to spend the capital yourself. So we've built it turnkey. All we got to do is connect the software and let the software do what it does. Cloud services, security services, it's a big push for phoenixNAP to get into the security space. Again, as an infrastructure as a service provider, not an MSSP. So we've deployed SOC components. We're teaming with AlertLogic for our data security cloud, which is a PCI compliant cloud platform. So customers can leverage multi-cloud and hybrid cloud more effectively when they have secure, compliance mandates, things along those lines. And of course, we can provide the solid managed backup solutions and disaster recovery solutions that they're looking forward to. With all that said, I just wanted to give you a brief overview of phoenixNAP, where we are, where we're going, the services that we can offer. If you have any questions around, other services that we're not going to cover today, feel free to reach out to us at partners@phoenixnap.com. Brandon, I'm going to go ahead and turn this over to you, let you speak to the next 6 slides here.
Great, thanks, Joel Wilhelm. Appreciate that. So let's dive a little deeper into it, kind of the why, right, of cloud services. And we start with looking at these 3 challenges of managing data across a hybrid or multi-cloud environment. The first is data criticality. I think everyone knows today that data is pretty much the lifeblood of any organization. Many businesses have closed their doors for good because of data loss, data exposure. You hear about new ransomwares every day, power outages, natural disasters, internal, external threats. Then we look at data growth. Very interesting stat that I looked up before this webinar. There are 2.5 quintillion bytes of data created each day. And what's even more interesting is that over the last 2 years alone, 90% of the data in the world was generated. So it's accelerating at a rapid pace. We have to manage that data, right? Service providers, resellers have to manage that data, and they need to rely on data centers like phoenixNAP to securely have that data stored. And then finally, data sprawl. So in a world today where we have the Internet of Things, we have cloud native solutions like Office 365, public workloads, on-prem, physical, virtual machines, all this data coming at us from all different directions, we need to centrally manage that, have a visibility on that, and really be able to kind of bring it all together. The market opportunity for backup as a service and disaster recovery as a service. And as we go through the slides, we'll kind of talk about what each of those are a little more in depth. And as I talk, and I'd like to kind of have the audience think about where you would be on this survey. So in 2016, the survey was taken, and now in 2019, about 3 years later, it was taken again. And we saw a big uptick in backup as a service. About 20% more customers were realizing that they needed backup as a service. More resellers were realizing that there was a market to offer that. And a 74% interest in DR, so full business continuity, flip a switch and you're up and running. Saw about a 14% increase there. So these are some of the reasons that customers and resellers see these opportunities and these needs. Having your data remotely stored off-site. So if it's great to have a backup on site, but what happens if there's a flood, earthquake, power outage, you name it. So being able to be up and running your tier 1 applications, that's really what disaster recovery is for. A lot of times it's more effective to go the OpEx versus CapEx model. And you don't have to have as much IT staff. You can kind of focus on, or at least the customers can focus on what they do, and the resellers have a little bit easier time managing all this. Removing that footprint, the actual physical storage, how much room do you have to hold all that, right? Management reporting, and of course, SLAs. So we'll take a look at 3 different use cases for a hybrid cloud. We start with infrastructure protection. So this is key, day one kind of stuff. You have to protect your workloads, again, whether those are physical machines, Windows, Linux, virtual machines, VMware, Hyper-V, Nutanix, whatever kind of infrastructure you have to protect that. And again, it's not just the data, it's where is that data stored? How secure is that location? Real quick story, I was at a panelist event with a service provider, myself representing Veeam, and a facility that sold actual rack space, and it was a really state-of-the-art facility. You had to do a thumbprint to get in. It was air conditioning controlled, security guards, right, top of the line stuff. Well, there was a story told that one of their data centers was right off of this main road, and a drunk driver ran into their data center and broke through it, and it knocked out the whole data center. So as secure as that facility was, they never envisioned that. That data center has now been replaced with huge pillars. And so when you're thinking about your data and keeping it safe, you also need to think about where that data is. Somebody like phoenixNAP is a great example of state-of-the-art secure data centers. So that's the first piece. The second piece is backup and DR, and that being offsite. So when you think about an offsite backup, Veeam calls that a backup copy job, where you have your local backup and your offsite. And we refer to that as the 3-2-1 rule. And you'll see me talk about the 3-2-1 rule in detail in a little more. So just kind of have that motto in the back of your head. But having multiple copies of backups, being able to restore quickly, or being able to keep backups long term. And then, of course, public cloud protection as well. So, a lot of workloads are moving into public cloud. Customers no longer want to have on-prem infrastructure. They want to use Office 365. They want to spin up virtual machines in public clouds like Azure and AWS. And those workloads are important too. And, it's a common misconception that, well, it's in the cloud, it's protected. And that is far from the case. As they always say, the cloud is just somebody's computer. So it's your data. If you're the customer, and if you're the reseller, it's a great opportunity to educate your customers that those workloads have to be protected too. A little more deeper on offsite backup and DRaaS. So when you think about offsite backups, you have these options here that we see. Veeam Cloud Connect. That is the functionality that phoenixNAP and the resellers will use to connect their customers to offsite storage securely across the internet. No VPNs needed. TLS, which is an upgraded version of SSL, so network security all the way through, encryption at rest. We have the Veeam Availability Console, and this is kind of into what Joel was talking about earlier, where resellers now have capabilities to use products that phoenixNAP hosts rather than you having to set all that up, so that you can log into a console and centrally manage and have visibility of all your customers' backup jobs and make sure that you don't miss any SLAs. The Veeam Cloud tier for offloading backups to object-based storage. So we all know that disk can sometimes be expensive. Veeam now has a way for you to take your backups and move them into an object storage platform like Azure Blob or Amazon S3. And then finally, tape as a service. So the true 100% air gap ransomware preventative is an offline tape. So And then finally, DRaaS. So this is going to be, again, for your tier 1 applications, being able to recover very quickly in the event of a complete site outage. phoenixNAP can host that for you and have their customers' whole data center up and running in no time. So, we see all these different options here: offsite backup, DRaaS. We kind of already talked about that in detail. Service provider data protection. So again, you're the service provider, and you are a lot of times responsible for this third-party data. So choosing someone like phoenixNAP, knowing who is holding your data and where it is stored. MSP backup, so managed service providers being able to offer these different options. We also mentioned Azure and AWS. So again, these are those public workloads, and then Office 365, all of those native cloud solutions. And Veeam has all the tools, whether it's RMM and PSA tools like the Veeam Availability Console and specific plugin integrations and APIs, making it easier to manage all of these different services. Just to kind of break it down, data protection services need to be simple, reliable, and flexible. So simple means that we can scale very quickly. Again, we talked about data growth and data sprawl. We don't need all these different products that don't have any integrations, and you have to log in here and there and check emails all day for success and failures. We want to make it easy to log in, to deploy these items, to know where they're being backed up to, and being able to restore easily. That leads us to the reliability part. So, being able to test backups. Veeam has specific functionality to spin up your backups outside of your production to make sure they're good, to do antivirus software scans, remove infected items from those backups before you restore them, and being flexible, whether it's, we're hardware agnostic. Veeam is a software-only company. So we don't really care. You don't have to get locked into some shiny box when you're using the product. And finally, the last slide, and one of my favorites. Earlier I mentioned the 3-2-1 rule. So here it is, having 3 copies of your data on 2 different medias, one of those offsite, preferably with phoenixNAP. And the method here is that if you follow the 3-2-1 rule, you should have 0 errors. So you have your production data, maybe on VMware. You have a copy of that on a local disk, maybe it's a NAS box or a Windows server. And then you have another copy of that offsite at the phoenixNAP location so that you can recover whether it's file level restore, complete machine, or application item restore. And you should be safe and secure with your data, whatever it is. So with that, I will turn it back over to Joel. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Brandon. That was a very good overview, and we really appreciate the kudos there. One of the things that Brandon was talking about, obviously, is public cloud protection. And if you read the the fine print in a lot of those public clouds, you're going to find that the data is yours to protect. Office 365 specifically, it's your responsibility. And a lot of times there are things in place where if data is accidentally deleted, maliciously deleted, it's permanently gone after 30 days or 60 days, depending on the level of package. That's not going to provide you protection from e-litigation, e-discovery requests. So if there's a publicly traded organization out there that you're working with using Office 365, for example, they really need to be paying attention to how they're backing up and archiving data, because it's very common for a request to come in for something that happened a year or 2 ago if there's any kind of litigation going on. And clearly, public clouds are not insusceptible to malware and ransomware and things like that. So, getting your whole account locked down, you really ought to own that data and have another copy somewhere else and not be relying on a single service provider. So something as simple as RO 365 Backup as a Service powered by Veeam, where we can go in, get access to that environment, and make sure everything is backed up and to a separate cloud, gives the customer a lot of protection.
Joel?
Yes.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. We have one question.
Sure.
Where is phoenixNAP with having MFA on your cloud portal?
So we do support MFA on our cloud portal today. We support Google Authenticator. So if you're already a phoenixNAP reseller or a phoenixNAP customer, just reach out to support and they can send you, or check our knowledge base articles and they can send you information on how to enable that.
Awesome. Thank you, Will. I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Will here. We're going to talk more specifically about some of the top challenges around security and compliance, more specifically some multi-cloud use cases, and then we'll wrap this up with a little bit more about how we support our partners. William?
All right, thank you, Joel. Thank you, Brandon, for everything. So when we look at, what challenges that folks are facing in the market today, there's a lot of people looking at hybrid and multi-cloud strategies. A lot of customers of yours potentially looking at these and saying, okay, sounds interesting potentially, but I'm worried about all of these things associated with trying to take this strategy. The reality is hybrid and or multi-cloud, and I'll just throw that out there for defining the difference. When we look at hybrid cloud, most people consider it to be on premises in a data center with your own infrastructure connecting to a cloud service, and then multi-cloud being, interacting with multiple different cloud infrastructure services or cloud services at the same time. There's a laundry list. You can look at this document, see this laundry list of things associated and concerns associated with it. But I think the thing I want to reinforce with this is it's the right thing to do. There is a place and a provider for most workloads, and as long as you can control and provide a level of assurance around the data from a compliance, security, spending perspective, you should be looking at a multi-cloud and hybrid cloud strategy, specifically because some cloud providers are good at some things and bad at other things, right? Sometimes you need a specific service and it's not available, right? So you have to be flexible and being able to adopt those things. But I think that as it pertains to things like backup and disaster recovery, it's important to think about how you're going to achieve those types of basic constructs in a multi-cloud world. Next slide. So you look at some of these challenges and you see, Gartner says 400 billion lost to cyber attack. We're just scratching the surface on some of the issues that arise through public cloud security, through data sprawl, and having organization data everywhere. And it really kind of stems into these major challenges as they're laid out here, right? Security is difficult. Expertise around security, and not just security, but public cloud security constructs, which vary from cloud to cloud, is extremely hard for organizations to grapple with. And it makes the challenges that they face to protect data, to control data, way more difficult than they were in the past. It's not to say that the public cloud is insecure. It's not, definitely. In fact, I would make the case that that public cloud providers have the ability to protect your data better than anyone, as long as you're practiced in their technologies, right? For us, being VMware cloud centric, we have a host of security and networking constructs that will meet the needs of your organization, but you have to be familiar with them and understand how to control them, and your customers have to be familiar with them and how to control them. Next slide, Joel. Oops, went one too far. All right. So when you look at why organizations are trying to adopt a multi-cloud strategy or hybrid cloud strategy, what you're seeing is usually some type of cloud cost optimization. They like the way that Amazon does this, but it's really expensive. So we're just going to put this one application that works really well in Amazon, and then we're going to put this other application that works well in Azure, and then we're going to use all this equipment we bought last year, and we're going to keep that on-prem. And then when you look at SaaS as an extension of that, Office 365, et cetera, those numbers just go through the roof, right? I think I saw a statistic, I believe it was Gartner, that said something like the average enterprise consumes like 45 different cloud services across the enterprise. And that's just an astounding number. And I mean, when they're talking cloud, they're talking about everything from Salesforce to Office 365 to Amazon to people like us. That's what they're talking about. And that's just crazy in terms of the number of places that data can be stored, right? And so they tried to focus on optimizing all this. And what we found is that if you have data and you have applications that are static in terms of they do their job, they are built to be on 24/7, maybe they're legacy and can't be burstable, or you're using them all the time, there's this baseline of infrastructure, you are absolutely spending too much money and getting less value out of a public cloud, out of a true hyperscaler, because those cloud services are built, even with their reserved instance models and other techniques that they've developed over the years, to be priced for a demand footprint that is inconsistent, right? And when you have a consistent workload, they are not giving back enough dollars to the organization that is choosing to commit to them. They're giving discounts, but they're not extensive enough to make up for the cost of running that application there. And there's a lot of places, a lot of companies have found, still doing that themselves is the best way. I'm sure a lot of you talk to customers that say, we're still going to do this on-prem, or we're going to use this private cloud as a service over here, and then we're going to burst into the public cloud. I mean, that's really kind of what we're starting to see this stuff go. Next slide. So when you look at how we protect all this stuff, you really have to understand that the adopting cloud infrastructure as a service or software as a service product is accepting the fact that security is a shared responsibility. You have to understand that security and workload application efficiency is both the goal of the cloud provider and the job of the cloud provider, and also the goal and the job of the organization. We'll do some things for you, you got to do the rest for yourself. And so when you're looking at how you evaluate all this, you really have to set up a clear understanding. And if you're in a position to recommend for end users, you have to really understand, what are they trying to achieve? What service is going to meet those needs the best? You got to go look at a few, at least, of the possible solutions out there, and you really have to put them through their paces. You got to talk to them about their pricing models, their service assurance and SLAs. You have to ask them about different ways to accomplish. One of the things I think we see with reseller and channel partners specifically is this lack of a willingness to try to find a different solution for the customer. You go and you quote something at provider A, you go and quote it at provider B. Provider A and provider B provide very similar solutions, different price points potentially, and then you go to provider C and they say, wait a minute, why are we doing it that way? Take a look at this option, this alternative. And a lot of times in the motions of being a reseller or an MSP, that's a scary proposition to take to a customer and say, we talked about vendor A and vendor B. They both recommended this, but vendor C has this other option. We think it might be better, or we're just going to ignore it, right? And there's this fear that it's going to, lengthen the deal cycle or really, potentially hurt the chances of you winning that opportunity. But what we find is a lot of times it earns a lot of trust with the customer. If you can really understand their application and you can really position a better alternative, a different alternative, you can be in a position to be a big winner with that customer versus just the guy that sold them some stuff. When you're looking at, how you build all this stuff, you have to make sure that you understand what these service levels mean to you, right? So when you're looking at these SLAs, what do they mean to me as an organization, right? Can I accept them in terms of is it good enough for me, and can I accommodate something that isn't potentially good enough for me with some different type of solution? So you got to look at that. You really have to try to understand what you're going to be getting from these cloud service providers and your customers going to be getting from the cloud service providers, because the tools matter, the insights that they provide you matter, and the quality of those solutions and those tools matter a lot. And when you adopt a cloud service, your customer adopts a cloud service, you should be getting a technology upgrade. It's one of those things that is not taken for granted enough, but a lot of people are focusing a lot on this raw cost. Okay, it's what I have today and what my bill for a refresh looks like, and then I'm gonna just choose to ignore the fact that I've got like a billion people sitting around managing this stuff, but nonetheless. And then I've got this service provider, whether it's Amazon or us or anybody, I've got this cost over 3 years. That's what I'm gonna look at, right? And they refuse to look at the optimizations, the efficiency gains, the workload management tool, the technology enhancements that you're getting out of adopting a cloud service provider. And I think it's really important, if you're looking at a multi-cloud strategy, if you're looking at a hybrid cloud strategy, to try to understand what technologies you're going to get. And then I think it's close to last year, the security components. When you're looking at adopting a cloud service, you really have to ask yourself, where, is this going to help me enhance the security of my applications and get over some of these hurdles that a lot of customers are facing today, which is they don't have the people. They don't have the people. Maybe they have a third-party solution. Maybe this cloud option isn't going to work with that third-party solution. There's a lot that goes into that decision-making process. Joel, all right. So here's a couple ways that we think that Veeam is a powerful application for the hybrid cloud, for the multi-cloud, right? And when you look at various workloads that are on-prem today, one of the ways we love to use Veeam the best is for migrations, right? So it helps us do migrations from all kinds of places, whether that's using the backup and recovery software or the agent. There's a lot of ways to kind of pick up, lift, and shift applications to a cloud service. That's super cool. When you're looking at ways to do different changes to your application, we have customers that take apps that they have on-prem or in our data center, maybe in colo, put them in our cloud service, maybe test upgrades, maybe test different applications, build out different augmenting applications, and looking at that. And then, I think the most important thing you can do with Veeam and their service provider community, like people like phoenixNAP, is consolidating all of your backup and DR requirements into a single solution, right? Having a customer be able to back up their infrastructure using any server platform to any storage platform that they have, and then take that same piece of software and connect it to a cloud service, take copies of those backups, put them in a cloud service provider, replicate all of that data in a nearly real-time way to a cloud service provider, and actually test and fail over DR strategies, in one piece of software, that's super powerful. I think Veeam's running a campaign like now, like no cloud tax or something like that. Because the thing is, it doesn't, these extra features for backup and DR, from a Veeam perspective, they come with the license that your customers are buying and that you're selling them to them. So when you look at the capability you're getting through backup and replication and Enterprise Plus, it's huge. And the only thing you're paying on top of that to execute on that DR and backup strategy is infrastructure in the target. That's really it.
Awesome, Will. Thank you so much. I know we're running a little bit long on time here, but we just have a few more slides and we'll be wrapped up here. So we'll move very quickly here through a next couple of services. Just wanted to talk a little bit more about Veeam Cloud Connect and disaster recovery as a service and what that means to you. Just in case you're not aware, Veeam Cloud Connect Backup, Veeam Cloud Connect is an inbuilt feature of every Veeam availability suite. So the tool is already there, ready for anybody using Veeam today to simply connect to a service provider using a URL and passcode, where they can then have access to the resources that they've subscribed to with phoenixNAP. So it's a very quick deployment. It's just a couple of drop downs in the admin window, and they can see their repo that we've carved up for backups, for example, or they can see the hardware plan for disaster recovery as a service that they can target with their replication jobs. And as Brandon alluded to before, we call that a backup copy job. We don't recommend direct backups to the cloud, so we recommend an on-prem backup. So they have very quick access to that data if something were to happen to the production side, and then a third copy in the cloud, again, protecting from things like malware, ransomware, disasters that happen locally to the on-prem environment. And so Veeam Cloud Connect is the ability to do that, right? We call the services Veeam Cloud Backup or Veeam Cloud Replication. So I just want to kind of get through some of the nomenclature that we use for those services. Again, it's inbuilt, it's granular recovery, file level recovery, or the entire VM can be pulled back out of the cloud at any time it's online. It's very different than their storage tier, which is object storage, block storage, which we do offer object storage here for the Veeam cloud tier as well, an S3 compatible API interface. So those are the types of services that we're talking about today, helping tie all of this together, right? It can be one to many, many to one. There's a lot of different options there and how you manage and control that. Disaster recovery as a service, again, 5 different locations that you can target for both backups and disaster recovery. We have dedicated staff here 24/7 to support you and your customers, and very quick to implement. One of the nice things about the Veeam built-in disaster recovery is there is a failover plan. There's a re-IPing feature functionality. There's a test functionality that you're going to get when you use this software. So you don't have to worry about just block level replication, which is the old way of doing DR, where you got to go in and configure a network in the middle of a disaster. You got to get everything online, get the applications booted in the correct order, clear the errors, fix the network before you can actually go into production. So this is disaster recovery as a service, is something we offer a 4-hour SLA on, which we're able to achieve much shorter times for actual recovery when customers are using this tool correctly. We have a hybrid component of this as well. We have many customers that have 50, 100, 200 virtual machines. They don't need everything replicated. So we can do a backup of the tertiary servers, stuff that they don't have to have within the first 4 hours, and just do replication for mission critical. That way we can give a cost-effective approach to business continuity overall, data protection overall, for those customers. I think those are critical elements to think about when you're talking to your customers, kind of understanding if they've got 5 virtual machines, odds are they're all very critical to their environment, but the larger, more complex customers certainly have services that don't need to be online within an hour. I don't think we have time to talk through the next few slides here, so I'm going to skip to This deck is going to be available for anybody who wants to raise their hand and ask for it. We'll go ahead and send it out. I'm gonna just talk to our client portal real quickly. If you're a partner today, you should have credentials to log in and register any type of opportunity. If this webinar got you thinking, hey, I've got 3 customers that use Veeam, they're not doing anything offsite, maybe they've got Office 365 deployed, there's probably a revenue stream there for you today. So if that got you thinking, go ahead and register with your client portal. Go log in, and it's on the phoenixNAP website. Click on the top partner page, it will take you there, and you can go ahead and log in and identify that end user and say, we want to register this opportunity. We'll start working with you. Our sales engineering staff is excellent helping scope these things, so if you don't have the expertise to understand exactly how much they need, we'll be happy to do that. There's also brochures, collateral, and white papers there that you can use. And of course, we'll co-brand that stuff for you as you go to the market. We are more than willing to drive additional training enablement one-on-one with your sales team so they can really get a sense of what we can do when you have a Veeam ecosystem of clients out there using the software. I'm going to skip over that real quick. I want to talk really quickly about our sales incentive. Some people would call this a SPIF program. This is a sales incentive program. What we're looking for here is let's get some extra opportunities in the funnel for the end of this year. We're offering a one-time bonus payout, an upfront percentage, 50% of the monthly recurring revenue on a 24-month term contract, up to $5,000 for anything related to phoenixNAP Arizona data center sales, cloud and infrastructure as a service. That includes backup and disaster recovery. So if you want to not only get your residual commissions, or potentially if you're a reseller, you've got some meat on the bone there because you're reselling the services, register an opportunity to us under the referral program, and we're able to pay an extra incentive to you upfront, which you can pass through to your sales team or your sales reps for an added incentive to bring those deals forward. If you have any questions on that, we do have a section in our partner website that talks about that in a little bit more detail. And with all of that said, these are the channel managers regions that we support. We've got, Peter Marr in the East region. We got Eric Carlson in the Midwest, Nicholas in the yellow there in the Tola region. In the Pacific Northwest, we have Dan Golden. I'm backfilling the West region as we speak, so bring those deals forward to me. If you have anything that you would like to talk about, here's our contact information. Again, all of this information will be available to you in the recording and also in the slide deck that I can send out to you individually. With that said, I want to thank everyone for their time. Right now, I'll go ahead and open up the floor. If there's any last minute questions or things that we can answer, we'd be happy to do that.
Joel, actually, Joe Budalis would like to have this presentation. So I would like just to remind everyone that the webinar is recorded, and the recording will be available to you on our YouTube channel, and it will be emailed to you as well as the presentation. So I would like also to thank you for joining us on this live session with Veeam. And if you have any questions right now or after the webinar, please contact us for more information, just to see how we can help you leverage your solutions by partnering with phoenixNAP and Veeam.
All right, thank you, Anna Maria. Brandon, really appreciate your time. Thank you very much, William. And to all of our guests, we'll look forward to talking to you at some point in the future. Have a great day.
Thank you, guys. Have a good one.
Thank you so much. Bye.